Koboto Jogoro, Osanai Yuki. They know each other from middle school, so now that they got into the same high school, they'll keep seeing each other. But there is something important to note. Their relationship is very unique, almost as much as the show itself. Both Jogoro and Yuki have amazing character designs and their personality is very charming, so it's natural to root for them to get together. But this is not a romance comedy or drama, and narrative always reminds you that this show is not as simple as will they or won't they. Shoshimin How to Become Ordinary is first and foremost a mystery about things that are all around you. Yuki has a very sweet tooth, and we're constantly reminded of that. Since the first scene where she invites Jogoro to get some sweets, to them in the cafe eating a cake talking about strawberry tarts, to her asking Jogoro to come buy strawberry tarts with her because they're sold one per customer. That's some real love for good desserts. And I think that's pretty cool as long as she goes out to eat some quality stuff.
Yep.
They have to hurry to get their piece until it's sold out. But we get a call from Kengo, Jogoro's friend from elementary school, asking for assistance with something. What would you do?
Terrorists have infiltrated a local Burger King. Oh jeez.
Obviously it depends on the request. In this case, it's something that you can't turn down, no biggie. Me, personally, I would regretfully turn a friend down, but
知り合いからの頼みを断って波風を立てるような真似はしない。
But we are trying to become ordinary, whatever it may mean. And this also implies that Jogoro and Yuki's relationship is not quite ordinary, since the same rule doesn't seem to apply to her. Because if she didn't decide to wait for him, he would have technically refused her. Pochette, or in simple words, a handbag was stolen. Or was it? It doesn't really matter, we just have to find it on request of Kengo, who's oh so eager to help this girl. We just have to search for it and find it. Search for it and find it. Search for it and find it. Search for it. Nothing of monetary value. Was with her until gym class in 6th period. Stolen? Hidden? Or maybe... Yeah, we started thinking this shit as though we're searching for Kira. In the meantime... We couldn't find it. Let's go for the strawberry tarts. We couldn't find it, so now I just have to forget about it and go buy some strawberry tarts. That's right. Let's move on. Something's not right. Why did Takeda went outside just to wave at us? Why was Takeda running all over the place? And there's something else that's bugging me.
いたよ。ジャージ着たがっしりした体つきの人が。
Takeda. Takeda stole the pochette and was trying to hide it the best he can. Why would he? Because he planted something there. This something is none other than a love letter that Takeda wanted to take back. That's a very simple reason in a very simple situation. But rack your brain about something as simple as this was entertaining. As long as you pay attention to people, to clothes, to surroundings, almost every mystery becomes solvable and nothing more than a clear truth. That it is, but is it good? Would an ordinary person care about such details to day-to-day occurrences? Would an ordinary person forget about it and go for strawberry tarts, or would they keep thinking about all these random things that don't matter? Can I really be ordinary?
いいよ。もしやめられないんだったら、私を言い訳に使って。
お互いにそうするって約束だからね。
Yuki and Jogoro have a special kind of relationship that we are yet to understand. But if something is certain, it's that they both help each other become completely ordinary. Enough with all these complicated mysteries and connections, let's go buy our long-awaited desserts. Yes, looks good. That's what life is all about, man. I can't wait to eat one today, then another one tomorrow. Strawberry tarts destroyed.
Leave me alone!
Bike stolen. Yuki decides to go on a little shopping trip to cheer herself up, and Jogoro happens to stumble upon her.
変装。
偶然だね、小鳩くん。
As it happens, she's pretty much over losing her bike, but losing it wasn't the end of the story. It was spotted on a break-in scene, so now that it was traced back to Yuki, she was scolded by school guide counselor. Now that these two met up, Jogoro decides to treat Yuki to some Saint Mark cakes with lovely fragrant caramel jelly that she not so slightly hinted to him about. On the way there, Jogoro's got a text from Kengo inviting him over. As Yuki was with him at the time, she was also invited. After a quick change of clothes,
演奏会場
we head to Kengo's place. After arriving there and being served some good hot cocoa, we are offered a recipe on how to make such a good hot cocoa.
Today's subject is slavery.
You might not care. Matter of fact, Jogoro doesn't care either, but listen to it anyways, it's important for the upcoming riddle. Basically, you add cocoa powder, add a little milk, mix, and add the rest of the milk. Sugar to taste. Remember this? Good. Yuki goes to the bathroom, either because she wanted to or because she wanted to give boys some room to talk. Now why did Kengo invite us here? As you might remember, these two are classmates in the elementary school, and as I can imagine, friends, based on their behavior and usage of first names between them. Simply speaking, they know each other quite well.
Then are we friends?
Or at least they did know each other 3 years ago. Kengo notices huge difference how Jogoro acts, and it doesn't sit right with him. This is not the friend that he used to know, who is snarky, extremely talkative, and seemingly invincible.
いやー、面白い話を聞いたよ。ありがとう。
This is not Kengo's friend, but I think the change is quite fathomable. Nothing happened, Jogoro said. True or not, I believe he just naturally changed with the flow of time, change of environment, change of interests. There doesn't have to be any kind of trauma to grow up. Jogoro claims to be an ordinary person, but we've seen that there is still something he tries to live in his past, and there is a perfect opportunity to see if he's grown out of solved mysteries or not. On his way to the restroom, he notices his voice in the next room and greets Kengo's sister, Chisato. As it seems, Chisato and Yuki are trying to solve a hot cocoa puzzle.
許せんバカ言語にできることができないって悔しくないの
悔しいですね、それは。
自分の知らないことを他人が知ってれば憎まれ口に負け惜しみ。
Seems like that little kid is still a part of Jogoro. Yuki lightly tried to warn him, yet Jogoro gets carried away and we have a secret to resolve. 3 cups of hot cocoa, the sink is dry, and only spoon is in it. There has to be a pot that was used for making cocoa, but there is none. Was it washed? No, the sink is dry. Microwave they have is rather huge, so Kengo might have just used it instead of the pot and stove. Though he'd need to use some other non-metallic container to put into it. Yet the sink is dry and empty. Then this what must have happened. He filled 3 cups full of milk, microwaved them, and added cocoa in each of them.
No.
Yeah, you know it's obviously wrong. The method for making hot cocoa Kengo described is more complicated. Okay then, he used 3 cups to prepare a cocoa paste and used 3 more cups to heat up milk. That would be 6 cups used, but is there a way to use less? Yes, he could use 3 cups of hot milk and 1 clean cup to prepare a cocoa paste. Empty 1 cup of milk into the cup with prepared cocoa paste and you are left with a cup of hot cocoa and free to use cup. Do that 2 more times and you'll have 3 cups of hot cocoa and 1 empty cup. The problem is Kengo used only 3 cups. Maybe he did use this method, but only for 2 cups of good hot cocoa that the guests would drink. For himself, he filled an empty cup with milk and added cocoa powder.
No.
That's not likely, because Jogoro and Yuki picked a cup from the serving tray freely, before Kengo could pick one. Yuki has an idea. What if we got 2 full cups of hot milk and use the 3rd one to mix cocoa paste? After mixing cocoa paste, you put it back in the full cup of milk and now you have 2 hot cocos. But then what?
でもこれだとどのカップも 66% までしか入れられない。
Yeah, she just split 2 full cups of hot cocoa into 3 that are not full, unlike the ones they actually got.
バオツなことを思って。
But this theory wasn't useless, because if you don't stop at 3 non-full cups and go 1 extra mile, you can get full cups of hot cocoa. You just need to add more milk into those cups and microwave them again. That works, but that's too much work. What is then? How would Kengo make 3 cups of delicious hot cocoa? Did he have some kind of cocoa paste? No, it's a regular cocoa powder. Did he use a pot or something, cleaned it and wiped it bone dry? Nah, that doesn't make sense, especially when there is a spoon still in the sink. We need 4 items to get wet to make 3 cups. If that fourth item wasn't washed, then...
Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Where's the milk at?
千里さん、その牛乳パックを持ってみてください。熱いでしょ。
Fuck! Ladies people really are the smartest, huh? He just microwaved a bottle of milk. Matter of fact, that delicious hot cocoa recipe of his was on cocoa powder package. The mystery is not a mystery anymore. But at what cost? I don't really know. I guess an ordinary person would just... Kengo, how did he make 3 cups of hot cocoa without a pot or anything? Dude, I just microwaved a whole carton of milk. The DCR microwave is freaking huge! Yeah, but we play detectives that we promised to bury 6 feet deep. At the very least, that's okay with Yuki, since whatever they promised to each other was, it does not permit being who you want to be. They can decide it for themselves. I really keep wondering what that bond is all about. Do they try to keep each other company to comfort themselves? Do they keep each other in check? Do they really try to become ordinary? Well, if there's something out of the ordinary, it is Yuki's gluttony for all kinds of desserts. Look and count with me.
私スタンダードシフォンとコーヒー
1,
ミルフィーユと
2,
パンナコッタと
3,
ストロベリーショート
4. For to start, keep that in mind. After hearing what happened in the middle of Yuki's exam and remembering that he left his phone at school, Jogoro goes there and quickly finds out what took place in that classroom. Someone was smart enough to rig a waste to drop and create a diversion during the test, but not smart enough to remember 4 short lines of biology terms. On top of that, they haven't removed their cheat sheet. So stupid of them, right? Who knows?
濡らぎのを着せようとしたってこと
Wait. When Jogoro texted Yuki from school, she said she was eating pumpkin pudding. That's 5. Not only that, where'd Mont Blanc go to? That's 6. When Jogoro came back, she had 3 more desserts. That's 9.
コーヒーのおかわりはいかがですか？
マルジョレーヌとサバラも追加で
11 desserts, one after another. There has to be a reason for her having bottomless pit inside of her stomach.
I can eat like 5 of these back to back.
She must be stress eating. So far, Yuki's been shy and quiet, which often made her look extremely cute.
I like 15-year-old girls!
That's the only side of hers we've seen and known. Is that her image of ordinary person? Or is that complete opposite of what she was, what she's trying to live in the past? After the truck driver who ran over her old bike reached out to school, Yuki and Jogoro went to see it. It was laying on the road with broken chain and bent dirty spokes. There is no real mystery here, it was used and disposed of. That's what I thought, but these two, seemingly out of thin air, brought up all the facts and details needed to know what exactly, or at the very least, most likely happened. They've seen Sakagami in a hurry yesterday. He must have been pushing the bike to its limits on the hill early on this road. Chain ripped. He cycled down the slope as far as he could, got off the bike and kicked it on the wheel. Where was Sakagami going? Now that's a question where you might start grasping at straws. That's the point where you need to start theorizing. We saw his group ride motorbikes. If they ride motorbikes to school, they might live nearby. So there's a good chance Sakagami was trying to get to his senpai's house. That's a good theory, let's expand on it. If somewhere around here was his destination, why throw a bike away? It's just a broken chain. Sakagami would have trouble getting home too, since there are no bus stops around here. So, assuming this is not his stopping place, first down the road he turned right, since turning left would bring him back to where he was. And guess what it is we have up ahead? Driving school. It all makes sense. His friends, if you can call them that, were all riding motorbikes, and he stole Yuki's bike because Sakagami himself was riding a bike and it got stolen.
パクられました。
Yet, this whole story is still a theory, that needs if not a proof, then as a minimum another good evidence. Go thin, it's almost the time Jogoro and Yuki saw the thief yesterday. Now it's settled. The reason Sakagami rode over the hill was to get ahead of the driving school bus that he missed earlier. Such a bus would make a stop even with no dedicated bus stop, and that's also why he threw his bike away. He wouldn't need it to get home. Yuki.
小鳩くん、これからじゃない。
Shy and timid Yuki is more than she would let on. Almost like there are two wolves inside. Jokes aside, this adorable little girl explained her thought process on the matter of Sakagami was breathtaking. It was not some cheap or silly reveal, it was something that always kept lurking in the back of my mind, all the while I was faced with this. Seeing her only from behind, getting a 1-second glimpse into her expression when addressing Jogoro, hearing her frustrated heavy voice, every bit of tension that I felt from seeing Yuki before this exponentially grew throughout the scene. And all the built-up anxiety was released with a weird mix of satisfaction and fear.
償ってもらわないと。
Watching this episode, I kept coming back to my questions about their bond and promise to each other, because there was always something that felt drawn to me. Before going to school to get his phone back,
取りに行く？それがいいと思う。
before investigating Sakagami,
小鳩くん、昨日何があったんだと思う？
それは
and even now that he's trying to talk her out of doing something stupid by saying that they should be content with what they have,
小市民にとって一番大切なのは私有財産の保全ってことにしたら。
Yuki kept egging Jogoro on all this time. She allowed him to use his detective skills so he wouldn't let go of them. She used his skills for her benefit when it came to the thief, and now she twists around what it means to be ordinary. Yuki ate 11 cakes in a row, but what she was really craving is revenge.
好きだっただよ。
Even if Yuki doesn't seem to care about Jogoro, Jogoro cares about Yuki and tries to protect her, which consequentially pushes him to use his deductive skills again. This might seem insignificant to you, but to him, a person who was shunned for his smarts, this is very important to quote-unquote become ordinary.
じゃあ始めよう。
Main concern for us right now is Yuki's safety, because no matter what she's actually capable of, if something goes wrong, she might be going up against a group of dangerous people. And that's why assistance of Kengo is required. Not to say that he can solve the verse, but his help would be quite reassuring. But since this request is coming just from a man who Kengo's refusing to be involved with, there has to be a good reason for him to get entangled. Jogo needs to show Kengo that there is a real danger for Yuki. He starts off with posing a question. Why does Sakagami want a driver's license? And no, it's not a stupid question. Driver's license can be used as an ID, which is pretty important. And even though Jogoro does not understand himself the reason for his doubt of getting license to drive, I think it's on the surface. Broke high schooler who can't afford to buy a new bike would not be able to afford a motorbike to ride. Now Kengo is presented with 3 problems that fundamentally put Sakagami's line of operation under suspicion. First off, distance. Sakagami wore Minakami High School uniform. That school is located on the southwest of town, whereas Kira North's driving school is on the north. There is much closer driving school to Minakami High. Kengo was asked to rate how suspicious it is.
6.5 対 3.5 で疑わしくないな。
Secondly, age. On the first day when Yuki and Jogoro met their thief, Sakagami referred to one of those thugs as Senpai. And a little after, that dude called another one of them Senpai too. Which means that Sakagami is a Kohai of a Kohai. He's in the first year of high school, in June. Hence, the chances of him being 16 of face to drive a motorbike are unsuspicious by a ratio of roughly 1:5. Lastly, disposition.
I wanna be pregnant.
Simply put, would a bike thief such as Sakagami be so serious and diligent about attending his driving school and getting a license? Wouldn't he just skip a day after being late to take a bus?
7対3で疑わしくない。
じゃあケンゴがどれぐらい坂上を疑わしいと思ってるかちょっと計算してみようか。
In order to calculate it, Jogo decides to multiply all the odds. Now think about it. Is that really the way to go about it? All throughout the scene I felt like I'm being tricked somehow, and I think I understand it now. To find out the final result by multiplying the percentages we got, they have to be independent probabilities. 2 events are independent if the occurrence of one event does not affect the chances of the occurrence of the other event. All 3 probabilities that Jogoro brought up are not so independent as we would like. It's not so clear-cut. Being serious about getting the driver license would probably make Sakagami go into further school more or less dubious, depending on how we look at it. Not being of age to get a license could have also dictated the choice of not so local school, making it more suspicious. But for the sake of it, let's say these odds were unrelated and multiply them. 8%. Or in other words, 92% suspicion of Sakagami and his reasons. What does it really mean though? Nothing. It means absolutely nothing. All the possibilities, chances, odds, percentage, whatever you want to call it, they don't hold any weight behind them, because they're all arbitrarily assigned numbers that represent Kengo's thoughts. This whole thing was a setup by Jogoro with one purpose in mind. It is to make Kengo believe in the existence of a bigger danger.
イオキベ
選挙で投票に行ってる間に印鑑と身分証を盗まれたんだって。
That danger being, in theory, a group of devious people who are down to break into people's apartments, steal their documents, and use those documents to indulge into some fraudulent actions. If such people were to find Yuki loitering around and about, she would not be treated nicely.
幼いさんからだ。
Jogoro and Kengo sprint to the bus stop. Their first and only lead is Sakagami, so they fake being driving students to get on the bus, barge into the school and... Yeah, she's okay. That unsent message was just a wrong photo and the signal here is bad, blah blah blah. Kengo is being kinda stupid, or kinda racist. He can't recognize Yuki, so she plays along with it.
はじめまして。ユキの双子の妹のマキです。
This whole mess concluded pretty nicely. Yuki figured out everything that Jogoro and Kengo did herself, and they anonymously ratted a group of frauds out. Yuki made her strawberry tarts offender pay in a smart and elegant way, no less. It was fitting such a lovely young lady. If she really is one. As Jogoro was explaining to Kengo the problem of Yuki going up against a group of bad guys, it was brought to attention that she's the one who knocks. If Jogoro is trying to get rid of his habit of getting involved in solving problems,
No! Stay in the box now! Get out of my skin!
Yuki is trying to stop beating those who have done her harm to a pulp. The terror of this girl getting hurt not only comes from people around her, but from her predisposition to sore retribution. This time, everything went peacefully, but there was still a lapse in judgment. A lapse in judgment that makes Yuki question herself and her mental problems partner.
執念深いのが私。口を出したがるのが小鳩くん。それはもうどうしようもないって。諦めない？
Yes. No. From what I've seen so far, they're great. They can keep being themselves with all their smarts and persistency, because what they truly lack is... common sense, maybe? Yeah, no, keep it up. Keep it up, guys. Seeing how Yuki handles the situation with strawberry tart destroying, bike thief enjoying, fraud schemes employing Sakagami, I thought she might not be that bad. But this is not normal behavior. This is not normal behavior. Cool-headed Jogoro suggests that they should keep at it and take their time fixing their flaws.
幼いさん。
小鳩くん。
Wow, seeing Yuki cry is very disturbing. What happened that could make even her cry? I'd love to find out, but for some reason Jogoro just lets her go. All these riddles and mental troubles, it's all kinda heavy on mind and brain, right?
Want a break from the ads?
Let's have a little time to relax. And what could be a better way to lighten the mood than a little, tiny, insignificant mystery? Wait, it's okay. I promise you that this mystery had nothing to do with the main plot. It does not really affect anything, except for the fact that Jogoro once again shows no constraint when it comes to this stuff. There's a game, or you can even call it a bet, since the loser is gonna have to write a certain article for Newspaper Club. 4 pastries were split between 4 people. One of them had mustard in it, and yet everyone claims to not have eaten the mustard. Oh well, someone's lying. That's not likely, as everyone would be working on some kind of article. It doesn't really matter who's gonna take over German bakery story. That's what a bad detective would have said. Some online, for whatever reason,
What made you wear glasses? Nigga, my vision.
is still a possibility. So for now, we have 4 conceivable reasons for no one speaking up. First,
一つ
there was never any mustard to begin with. Second,
二つ
there was mustard in one of the pastries, but person didn't notice it. Third,
三つ
there was mustard in one of the pastries, but person doesn't want to admit it. And fourth
四つ
is third-party interference. What do you think it was? In a situation like this, the best way to get closer to the truth is to gather all the information you can. This refrigerator has no power, it's basically a cupboard. These candies are for students who bring service here. What do you guys remember about pastry itself? Who brought it here? Was there anyone else around? Some of it might end up being irrelevant,
And you know what else is massive?
but you never know. So, the first thing that moved us one step forward is talking to Home Economics Club member. This absolutely sane dude has helped out with the mustard part of this whole bet. Did he mess anything up maybe? Not really. Actually, he was asked by newspaper club president to add something hot, like habanero sauce. And when it comes to habanero sauce, you will notice this bad boy. Most importantly, you wouldn't be able to hide it, especially when what you were expecting was plain mustard. That's a pretty huge reveal. Now we know that neither mustard nor habanero were in these 4 Berurina Pufan. What's left is to figure out what kind of third-party interference took place, or in simple words, where's the fucking laced cake going? First things first, were there really only 4 pastries? Earlier, Kengo mentioned that one of the members refused to participate, but did club president who was getting these cakes know about that?
セバさんは瓜野くんが参加しないことは知ってたんだよね。
誰か連絡したか？
俺はしてないな。
That was a pretty easy step that could have shed light on the whole situation earlier. But you gotta remember that all these thoughts and assumptions don't come in a linear order. Some things won't make sense until a later point, while others would catch your attention right away. In any case, now we know that there were 5 pastries that by the time 4 club members sat down to eat, shrunk down to 4. We gotta trace down the movement of people in and out of the club room to finally figure out who the culprit is. Building an understanding of the timeline wasn't that hard. The only important thing worth mentioning was the fact that the first person to come to the club room, even before the press, was Monchi. And Monchi, you see, was locked in. So despite saying that he would have noticed someone walking in, he was wrong. Keep that in mind for now. Next person to come here was Itsukaichi, who met club press on his way out. Itsukaichi worked on some of the service that students bring from time to time, and cleaned the table from unnecessary things in order to take pictures of the pastry. It's safe to assume that since Itsukaichi came to the room, getting in and out of here unnoticed became impossible. Focus on that short period of time where club president and Monchi were here alone. As it stands, press was helping out Monchi with an article, while all the things that Itsukaichi put away from the table were still on it. Imagine this whole scene. One hyper-concentrated guy who's not facing you, getting help from another guy who at most would just greet you because he's in a hurry himself, and a table with service, complimentary candies, and Berurina Pufan. Something fantastic is going to happen this summer. Jogoro and Yuki were enjoying summer festival each on their own, until they randomly met and exchanged blows with each other. One of them got teased by being confused for a child, and the other one got kicked. Guess who is who? They got to walk together, all the while talking about what it's like to be an ordinary person. Things like staying up late at festival despite exams coming up, or hiding if you see a teacher. You know, what normal kids do. After getting cotton candy and preparing to go home, Yuki makes sure that Jogoro doesn't have plans for his summer break and says,
私ね、なんだか素敵な予感がしてるの。
When summer breaks comes around, Yuki decides to visit Jogoro with an invitation. More accurately, with a map of snack shops that, as she says, would determine her destiny. First time we saw these two go to a cafe for some sweets, Jogoro mentioned that he doesn't have much of a sweet tooth. So now he makes the only right decision he could have made.
幼いスイーツセレクション。ナッツ。
But of course, all Jogoro needs to change his mind is to see this cute expression on her face and hear her sad voice.
受け取ってくれないの？
He folded immediately. So would I. Anyway, Yuki needs Jogoro to come with because it would somehow really help with her summer plans. Next day, while Jogoro was on his way, Yuki messages him saying that she can't leave the house, so she asks him to buy the sweets and come to her place. He does exactly that, with one deviation. Instead of getting 4 requested chocolates, he could only get 3 that were still in stock. Surely that's not a big deal. Jogoro is not a big sweets fan, so he could just let Yuki have 2 full chocolate cakes. Right? Yeah, no. Gotta put those brains to work until real glutton came back. The plan is to make Yuki believe that there were only ever 2 chocolates. First thing we do is quickly look all over the table to know exactly what we are working with. After inspection, Jogoro notices 2 things: boxes with cake holders and what's left from the chocolate he's already devoured. Starting with cake holders, he has to move them in some way. Get rid of one cake holder and move the other one to make it seem right. That's gonna take a while. Maybe then remove all of cake holders like there weren't any at all? It's gonna take even longer. Let's try another approach. What's the fastest way to manipulate these cake holders that would make it impossible to ascertain the amount of sweets? I don't know about that, but I guess it works? We just gotta put the trash away and wear it golden. No, Jogoro forgot about coffee. Why would he drink hot coffee on such a hot day? Well, that sucks. It's fine. As long as he can eat another Charlotte, it's worth it. Yuki comes back and now they can finally enjoy their food with some chit-chat. Jogoro does act a little suspicious, but surely it's not a problem. Jogoro says that his dessert has to be his favorite so far, even though he barely touched it. But surely that's not a problem. Jogoro notices that the box with 2 cakes had 2 napkins in it. If here are 3 napkins, then... Yeah, surely it wasn't a problem. He worked it out. Jogoro is so freaking smart. Bro stood no chance. Matter of fact, he subconsciously knew that all along, because he confessed immediately. Jogoro had so much fun trying to challenge and fool Yuki, when in reality, Yuki had him wrapped around her finger. Now he has no choice. He will go to all the snack shops with her. The other day, when Jogoro was reading a book, trying to forget whatever it is he got himself into, Yuki messaged him the location of where to meet her, and for some reason it was made into a riddle. Good thing it was an easy one.
Light work, no reaction.
Meet me between this shop and this shop. Well, there it is. Having arrived there a little early, we decide to grab a bite in the nearby cafe. But fuck, I'll let you know right away, so you won't have to go through the same torment I went through. This burger will not be bitten once on our eyes. Ken goes here on some investigation, and he assumes that Jogoro is too, but upon learning that Jogoro is just chilling trying to eat, he says, apparently, Ken is trying to get some girl out of a bad group who's messing with illicit drugs. That girl's younger sister asked him about it, but obviously no names were dropped. It's a complicated situation that definitely doesn't evoke a wish to involve yourself. Kenny brushes him off with a little joke, because it's a serious investigation that has nothing to do with Jogoro. Yeah, Kengo can't keep his mouth shut, but he has to leave now as the group that he was taking now started moving. Before running away, he troubles Jogoro with a piece of paper and requests to contact this person. As we weren't busy enough to eat our food, now we have to think. Oh my god! At the very least, our mouse is free and we can finally get a bite. I don't know what to say. She was there all this time, just sitting there, menacingly, in disguise. Having come out from her hiding, Yuki with a shady smile on her face complimented Jogoro on him figuring out the meeting place. Aging us for the last time, Jogoro gives up on his burger and goes full in on solving Kengo's message. All we can see is Kanji Han written here. This led these two in a completely wrong direction with a lot of stupid theories. They kept at it until they realized that the nature of this symbol is to convey information that would be too much to communicate orally. With that in mind, they saw the truth. Strokes of the symbol were slightly off. Matter of fact, order of strokes is odd too. Jogoro realized that this kanji is not kanji at all. It's a map with a check mark on it. What's left is to find the origin for this map.
どうしたの？
いや、僕またやっちゃってたなって。
He finally noticed. He's playing detective again. Jogoro did that with Newspaper Club, even though he didn't have to. Jogoro did that with Charlotte, not so much to get second Nyam Nyam, but to challenge Yuki. And Jogoro did it again with this map. It is quite unknown to see that he can't refrain himself from all this. But what's more unknown is Yuki's response.
小鳩くん、前に言ってたよ。知り合いからの頼みを断って、波風を立てたりしないのが小市民だって。
Once again, she brings some excuse that doesn't truly justify his behavior. She keeps doing it again and again. First is you can use me as an excuse, then it's our promise doesn't dictate what person you have to be. Some other times she straight up ignores their promise. And now it's, oh, remember you said that an ordinary person would help the acquaintance? That's what you're doing. Like hell nah, she gotta do something about it. I can't stress enough how tiresome the fact that she didn't stop him once is. Don't you have a promise to keep? Help your boy out. Anyway, the origin of the map was on Kengo's tray. After removing the disguise, Yuki and Jogoro go to the marketplace just to meet this girl and tell her that Ken, as she calls him, might have found something and went chasing after someone. On their way to get desserts, Yuki seems to be in a happy mood.
今日のフローズンスイカヨーグルト。私がご馳走してあげるね。
Another peaceful day when Jogoro was enjoying his book, he got invited by his friend to eat some food. There wasn't much to it since Kengo just wanted to vent about his investigation. What happened is that girl he was trying to help, Kawamata, told him she wants to leave the group, but since their leader Isawa is unhinged, it's not so easy. By the way, Isawa Hasami is the same person Yuki mentioned before getting to Map Conundrum. Apparently, she was doing the same stuff with drugs back in middle school, but was put on probation. Now this freak is out and terrorizing Kawamata with tangible threats, like coming at her with a wrench. All because she might have been the one who ratted her out. All in all, a shitty situation where Kengo can't really help her out, especially when she tells him that he's quote-unquote in her way. In the evening of that day, Jogoro got a late call from Yuki, who wanted to make sure that they will go to Sanyadori festival together. She spent quite some time yapping about some apples, about some ringos, you know what I mean, and apparently these candy apples are so good that tomorrow is gonna be truly special.
これがこの夏の思い出の集大成なんだから。
When next day comes, Jogoro gets to Yuki's place and meets her mother for the first time, because Yuki herself is out at the moment. They got to talk a little while waiting. As it happens, Yuki's mother noticed her daughter on the phone a lot at night, but she didn't expect it to be a boy. It was not Jogoro on the phone. That's none of his business though, so he kept his mouth shut. Suddenly phone rang, and the culmination memories began with Osama and Yuki being abducted. It's your time, Jogoro. This is the kind of situation you've always thrived in. You know Yuki pretty well, so you ought to piece something together. If there's ever time for you to use your brain, it's now.
これは知恵試しの材料じゃない。幼いさんが誘拐されてるんだぞ。僕の出る幕じゃないんだ。
What do you mean? I know it might feel wrong for you to enjoy the process of unraveling the truth in this particular case, but it doesn't matter. Think, boy, think. Somehow Yuki managed to get a message through. Of all people to send it to, it had to be Jogoro. And of all things to say in it, it had to be about sweets. That's obviously code of some sort, so our little detective gets his conviction restored and calls for Kengo's help. At Kobudo's place, they get to Osanai Suitsu Selection to find out what was said in that message. Jogoro remembers that time when Yuki asked him to meet her in between two other shops. So now they were looking for two shops which she texted about. Candy apples are at Muramatsuya and cannoli are at Lemon Seed. A place at the center of these two shops doesn't really make sense, since it's a crowded shop district. What we gotta take in consideration are quantities of snacks, or in other words, ratio 4:1. You're thinking what I'm thinking?
He's right behind me, isn't he?
Jogoro and Kingo get to an abandoned gymnasium and start looking around for clues. After noticing a wrapper from a lollipop that Yuki is often carrying with her and deducting an approximate amount of people, they find a way inside. Following the voices that were echoing around in a huge forsaken gym, boys managed to find and confirm Yuki's location. What I really liked is that they retreated to call police, but what I didn't like is that they just left her there. Only when Kengo said that one of the girls interrogating Yuki was Isawa Hasumi and reminded that she's unhinged, only then they took off to look after Yuki. Like, can you imagine yourself in this scenario? You call for the police and just stay outside, waiting. I was sweating not knowing what's happening to Yuki. As luck would have it, nothing happened just yet. When their eyes met, she started talking shit in a way that sent chills down their spines. Except for maybe Isawa, but only because she's that stupid. Yuki remembered every hit, every kick, every tug of hair, every decision this bitch has made that hurt her. She remembered it. What's important is that leaving the mark on her body with that knife would make her remember every one of these girls, name by name, forever. That is psychotic. It really shows how, as Yuki herself says, persistent she is. This goes beyond persistency, because if you hurt her, she really will pay you back. As Isawa was about to attack her victim, Kengaber's doors opened and hell broke loose. Or so I think. It was off screen. But we know that they got into a fight, got some minor injuries, and the villains got arrested. As Yuki had to go home, Jogoro decided to bring their next dessert from the list to her place. I thought it's candy apples we were going for today, but Yuki wants the next one on his list. Tinka Rinka no Peach Pie, which means there is one last shop to visit, Cecilia's Summer Tropical Parfait. We didn't get to see them with desserts in all kinds of places, but I'm sure it was a lot of fun, because Jogoro mentioned how fulfilling summer break of their second year of high school was. Yes, second year. Since the start of the series, 1.5 years has passed. I have no idea where all the time went. Watching these last two episodes about their summer break, I felt like there are a lot of small things, thoughts, details kept piling up in the back of my mind. And one of the more prominent ones is, how was Yuki able to text Jogoro about her location, and with such precision? Let's see the whole truth unfold.
誘拐されるって分かってたんだよね、幼いさん。
This was a beautiful episode. I have no idea how I'm supposed to explain it in a way that would make it justice. Every aspect of this anime that kept me enthralled all throughout came together to create so-called absolute cinema. Character designs, animation, art direction, sound design, and most importantly, writing. It was top fucking notch. Despite start to finish watching two people talk by the table, not for a second it felt boring or insignificant, because the interactions are extremely engaging. And you might be wondering when I'm gonna start explaining what actually happened. But fuck, it's hard, man. Jogoro had his own questions after what happened with Yuki, but unlike previous mysteries that we get to explore together, this one is already solved. So what we witness here instead is two smartasses fooling around with one another. There's gonna be a lot of information, so you better lock in. Jogoro lays out the ground with all kinds of things that he noticed this summer, because he wanted to ask Yuki a few questions on the way, to have a clearer picture.
質問に答えてないよ。
大丈夫。気にしないから。
Seeing how things are, Jogoro goes on his own. First thing he mentions is Yuki's clothes. He also doesn't pass the opportunity to compliment her dress today. Anyway, his point is, usually when Yuki goes out in town on the weekends, she dresses in a way that's not like her, that's not recognizable. But on the day of her kidnapping, her outfit was very resembling of high school summer uniform, which made her easily identifiable.
そんな日に誘拐されちゃうなんて、とっても不運だった。
Yeah, right. You definitely were. Next thing that Jogoro found interesting is SOS message that he received. Surely it was written in a way that wouldn't give Yuki out if found out. But as we noticed after looking at the car, the victim had to be in the back of the car, obviously with other people around. There is no way she could have pulled her phone out, typed 3 separate messages and stay unnoticed.
私、メッセージを打つのがとっても早いの。そして、伊沢さんたちはとってもおまぬけだった。
All throughout the summer break, Yuki was taking Jogoro out to try all sorts of desserts. It's a super cool idea to make a map with all the places you want to visit and plan to spend the holidays actually going there with a friend. But in this case, going out to eat good food was never a true reason. That time when Yuki gave Jogoro a simple riddle with 2 shops, that time he recognized Muramatsuya from Osanai Suitu Selection, that time she was happy he figured Kengo's scribble was a map, all the days they spent going around Kira City, all that was to prime Jogoro to recall the map as soon as Yuki needed him to.
その地図、私すっかり頭に入ってたから助けを呼ぶメッセージを偽装するときにまず思い浮かんだの。
At this point, it's extremely obvious that he was right, but Jogoro has one more thing to point out. After rescuing Yuki from Isawa and others, he suggested bringing her the next thing on the list. This thing was supposed to be a candy apple. That's what these two were going to get that day. But without any hesitation, Yuki exclaims, she's already had a candy apple at that point, all because she knew she's going to be kidnapped. Jogoro agrees that he's disappointed himself for being bested, but that doesn't matter. What he really cares is why didn't Yuki ask for help? That is my question exactly. I'm not gonna lie and say that they're best friends, that they're close to one another. It never really felt that way. Their relationship is really peculiar, and their dynamic is what made the series as interesting as it is. But surely you can trust each other, right? They've been at it for at least 1.5 years of high school, but it started even earlier than that. So now, after all that time and hundreds of shared desserts, you can't ask for help in face of a danger? I don't get it. And logic like you might have gotten in trouble doesn't fly with me either, because she was still using him all throughout. Yuki might have said that she agrees, that she should have probably asked for help, but I don't know. I'm not feeling so good about it. Having heard all that, you still have questions like, how did Yuki send SOS messages? How did she know where she was taken? Why would she even know her abduction? That's okay, because it's only been half of a story.
夏休みに入ってからは夜中に電話する回数も増えているみたいで、きっといいお友達ができたんだと思っていたんです。
Jogoro thinks? No, Jogoro knows that Yuki had an insider. She established an insider and manipulated the whole thing. Ultimate goal of it all was to throw Isawa in jail. Assault, drug abuse, kidnapping, she's not getting away with it. Yuki was kind enough to explain the part that Jogoro had no way of knowing, the insider that she had. It's Kawamata Sanae, that girl who Kengo was trying to help, that girl who said that Kengo was in the way. You see, back in middle school Yuki helped Sanae to get out of that group of druggies, but after Isawa came out of probation and started searching for a rat, this bitch threatened one person who helped her when she needed it. Yuki knew that sooner or later Isawa was gonna learn of her involvement, so she made Sanae work for her. This is the only way she could be captured in such a specific way. She knew exactly how and exactly when it's going to happen. That's why she was able to go eat a candy apple, wait for ransom call with Sanae's changed voice, send her ciphered request, and then got kidnapped. Now it's all done, but there is something that Yuki will definitely hold on to.
幼いユキの家だね。いいから黙って聞きな。
Also, Yuki has planned her own kidnapping to put Isawa behind the bars for all she's done, made sure she's gonna be there for long by faking a ransom, and kept the chokehold on Sanae in form of the recording. This is absolutely insane. Yuki made sure that Isawa and 4 other girls will be far away from her. She made sure their sentence will be lengthy. She made sure to leave no trace of her being a mastermind. She made sure to have a proof that will protect her. She made sure that...
嘘つきだ。
No matter what reason she might have had, Yuki's done wrong for framing people and making others her accomplices. That is correct, yet I can't help but think if it's okay. What I mean is, I can understand and empathize with how she felt. She was bullied by some gang of junkies. She was threatened by a dumbass who was indebted to her. Heck, Yuki knew she was gonna get kidnapped. That is a tough situation. It could really mess you up both mentally and physically. So seeing Jogoro praise this little kid for all the faults was really anticlimactic. I understand your disappointment, but this is not the right way to go about expressing it. And she realizes that. Instead of showing Yuki some compassion, Jogoro interrogates her, exposes her every secret, and after learning the whole truth of what his friend been through, he lectures her. "You're a liar," he says. But the truth is, they both are. Jogoro and Yuki are not a couple, as everyone still thinks. They're not a couple of ordinary people as they pretended to be. They're not a couple of fox and wolf that struggle to live among people. These two are just a couple of arrogant high schoolers.
私たちもう一緒にいる意味ないよ。
Promise that was made back in middle school was absolutely necessary for both of them at the time. It was actually real helpful from what I can see. Jogoro is not an annoying kid that used to stick his nose everywhere, and Yuki is not a wild beast that gets into a fight with everyone. Their ways did change, and time spent together did them good, but at some point they grew too comfortable from having one another to rely on. Jogoro tries to find reason for them to stick together, while Yuki tries to justify their breakup. But even now, all they're doing is thinking. They don't argue. Don't call each other's reasons bullshit. Don't get heated from their friend cutting them off like it's always been just about value and benefit. Don't feel sad from losing their friend. All they can do is rational, I think.
でもね、小鳩くんとのスイーツ巡り、楽しい気持ちもなくはなかった。
This is fucking sad, man. I don't really know how to describe my feelings except saying that I feel miserable. Yuki and Jogoro was such a treat to follow, because their wits and seemingly laid-back personality created a perfect dynamic to get absorbed into. It's really not often you see such well-written characters as in this anime. There's also a little set of season 2 we got, but that can wait a little. Talking about this anime and how good it is, I just want to point out that besides character designs, art direction, writing, sound design, and animation that are great and that I've already mentioned before, I find opening and ending sequence to be perfect. Oh boy, people working on them didn't pull their punches. Both opening and ending are extremely beautiful, and despite being very different from one another, they fit the mood of the show perfectly. Songs are amazing, animation photography are amazing, creative choices, bro, it just oozes with passion. And overall, Studio Elephant Rock has cooked with this anime. They have 11 animes to their name, but seeing this show, you would never guess how young the studio is. But maybe you would, because this level of quality and attention to detail feels special. A second season of this anime went into production immediately. We also got a little setup for it at the end of the last episode. Basically what happened is, we got introduced to several new characters. This kid from Newspaper Club that we've seen once before acquainted Yuki thanks to his straightforwardness. And this girl, upon learning that Jogoro quote-unquote broke up with that girl, asked him out. And before he could give a proper answer, she proclaimed that it's settled. And that's about it. So go subscribe to the channel, like the... Actually, never mind. You know what? Forget about it.